Yo, what's up guys, it's King Sean here, and in today's video, I will be going over the Commanders' top needs going into the 2025 offseason. I'll be doing a ranking of 1 to 5 of my top needs, in my opinion, for this team going into the offseason, and I'll also be talking about some other potential needs as well. So, if you guys are new to my channel, leave a like down below, subscribe, and turn on notifications, and with that out of the way, let's get straight into today's video. All right, so let's start with my top 5 offseason needs for the Commanders. At number 1 on here, as you can see, I have edge rusher. We did not get enough from our edge rushers this year, and you know what? We just don't have much talent. We didn't have much talent at edge rusher this year, right? Signed Dorrance Armstrong to a 3-year deal. He did a lot better down the stretch of the season. He was really good in the playoffs, had a really good game versus the Lions, had a good game versus the Bucks and Eagles as well. He did a great job of generating pressure, especially working against guards in the playoffs, so hopefully we can continue to see that. Dante Fowler Jr. put up 10.5 sacks this season, 1 sack shy of his career high, so that's really good right there. He definitely impressed, and he's definitely a guy I would bring back. He would be a great rotational edge rusher in our edge rusher rotation. However, one thing that he does not provide is setting the edge and stopping the run, right? So our D-ends do not do a good job of stopping the run and setting the edge, right? They did not do a good job of it this season. Cleveland Farrell, he was basically our best run-stopping defensive end, and even he didn't do like a whole lot in the run-stopping game, right? Like after he suffered that knee injury, I want to say in like week 3 or week 4 of the season, he just was never the same in terms of like stopping the run, because that's the only thing we brought him here for, right? He wasn't a great pass rusher. He was really just good at stopping the run. And after a couple of weeks, you know, because of the injury, he just wasn't making that much of an impact in the run game, right? So we need a guy that is not only good at stopping the run and setting the edge, but also a guy that is really, really good at getting pressure on the quarterback. Like I said, Dante Fowler Jr. was basically our best pass rusher the entire season. And Dorrance Armstrong, he was really good in the playoffs. We just need that guy who is really, really good at both. And as of right now, none of our edge rushers just provide us with those abilities, right? Or with that, you know, tandem of being good at stopping the run and being good at getting pressure on the quarterback. So that's definitely my number 1 need this offseason, because you already know DQ, he had Micah Parsons in, you know, Dallas, right? You're not going to find a guy like Micah Parsons, though. Micah Parsons do not grow on trees, so I just want a guy that's just great at both and would fit very, very well into DQ's and Joe Witt Jr.'s scheme. My next 3 needs are offensive needs, starting with tackle at number 2. Look, protecting Jaden is probably the number 1 priority on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, you want to get him more weapons. Obviously, add another receiver or 2, add another running back, maybe go after tight end, we'll see. But protecting Jaden is going to be big time. In the Eagles NFC Championship game, the Eagles don't blitz a lot. They just usually rush 4. But even when they were rushing 4, they were still getting penetration. They were still getting pressure on Jaden, and Jaden was running all around, man. I really want to say, like, after the bye week, the O-line just didn't look as good in the run game especially, but also they weren't as great in the pass block game as well. Brandon Coleman, you know, he had his moments this year, his moments of flashes this year, but overall just wasn't great at tackling. Honestly, I don't think he's a tackle. I think he's a guard, and there's nothing wrong with that. He showed traits of being a guard at TCU, and many fans thought that he was going to be that here in the NFL, and he still could be that, right? Like, he's going to hang around in the NFL for a very long time. I just hope that this coaching staff realizes that this guy is not a tackle, but he may do a great job at left guard or even right guard, right? But probably left guard. So I hope they realize that and move Coleman to left guard. But tackle definitely is an important position. Andrew Wiley only has 1 year left on his deal, and I feel like you can upgrade from him right at right tackle. And then obviously the blind side, left tackle, is an important need as well. So tackle, definitely one of our top needs this offseason. Receiver 2, obviously we need a legit wide receiver 2 across from Terry, man. teams have just been taking advantage of the fact that we don't have a legit receiver 2 by doubling Terry and taking him away, and that's forced us to go to other options like De'Ami Brown, Olamide Zaccheaus, Noah Brown, Luke McCaffrey. And those guys, they've stepped up at times, right? Like De'Ami stepped up in the Bucks and Lions games in the playoffs, but overall, didn't do a whole lot this season. I think he fits well in Cliff's scheme because he is pretty good on wide receiver screens. He was our best receiver on screen passes this year. And Olamide Zaccheaus, he's a good blocker, but those guys are not legit wide receiver 2 options. We need to find that guy this offseason. I feel like the most realistic chance to find an established receiver 2 is in free agency. Maybe go after a guy like Chris Godwin or T. Higgins. Maybe if a guy like Garrett Wilson becomes available, maybe trade for him. We shall see. But receiver 2 and receiver in general, right? Like, I wouldn't mind also signing or drafting a receiver 3, right? Maybe you would draft a receiver 3 and then sign a receiver 2. So maybe you would sign a guy like T. Higgins and then find a receiver 3 or slot option in the draft. Whatever they decide to do, I would bring in multiple receivers this offseason, but I would prefer attacking the receiver 2 position in free agency, specifically targeting a guy like T. Higgins. So receiver, definitely a very important need that we need to go after this offseason. I have running back at number 4. I feel like edge, tackle, and receiver are all just a bit more important than running back, but running back is still a big need. Before the bye week, B-Rob was looking really good. Obviously, before Eckler got injured, he was looking really good, but after the bye week, B-Rob was just looking slow. He wasn't, being very decisive in terms of which lanes to take, right? His vision was shoddy, so I've said this for the longest, though. B-Rob is a power back. Like, he is our thunder. I want an explosive back, and I should have written it down on this graphic right here, but I specifically want a guy that is very, very explosive at running back. Like, I've seen some fans, suggesting we should draft Cam Scatterbo. Like, Scatterbo is going to run like a 4.6, 4.7 at the combine. I don't want him, man. Like, a Scatterbo and Brian Robinson Jr. duo, ew. Like, respectfully. Like, if we needed a power back, then I would definitely consider Scatterbo. But we need speed. We need real speed. All or a lot of the contenders, obviously Super Bowl contenders, have real speed at running back. Like, obviously the Eagles have Saquon. The Lions have Jameer. The Ravens have Derrick Henry, who is super fast when he gets out in open space. Those types of running backs are hard to find, so I'm not expecting us to get those types of backs because they are pretty rare. Even like a Bijan Robinson, he's a pretty rare back to find because he was picked in the top 8 of the draft. However, I just want a back that is speedy, has really good vision, and has great home run ability, right? So that's the type of running back I want, and I feel like that type of running back could really help B-Rob out because that guy would be the running back or our Lightning, kind of like what the Lions have in Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery. I'm not comparing B-Rob to David Montgomery, but he would be kind of like our Thunder or power back while the guy we draft, because I don't think we're going to sign a running back. None of the running backs in free agency are really too appealing, and this running back draft class is absolutely stacked, so I would just draft a running back, and there's a couple of options. Obviously, when we get to the draft, we're going to talk about, running back prospects we could be targeting, but yeah, running back, definitely an important need, and then cornerback is another important need. I think Mikey's going to move back into the slot, and then Marshawn Lattimore, he's going to be one of our starting outside quarterbacks, so we're definitely going to need to find a guy to start across from Marshawn Lattimore, and then that would be a really good trio. Now, the cornerback free agency class is pretty good. You got guys like Mooney Ward, Charvarius Ward, that is, Carlton Davis, DJ Reed, Byron Murphy from the Vikings, so there's definitely some guys in free agency that we could be targeting at cornerback, so we will have a select few guys to pick from. Mooney Ward could be a very realistic option, has ties to Adam Peters because obviously AP was with the 49ers for all those years as their assistant GM, so he's definitely a guy that I could see us targeting for sure. But yeah, finding a cornerback to start outside of Marshawn Lattimore, because once again, I feel like Mikey's going to move back to his natural position, which is the slot or the nickel. So finding a guy that can start across from Marshawn Lattimore would be very, very good. So those are my top 5 offseason needs for the Commanders. Moving on to other important and potential needs. The needs I have on here are free safety, tight end, D tackle, and guard. Let's start with free safety. I personally view Quan Martin as more of a better strong safety, and I view Jeremy Chin as a guy that is better in the box and kind of a hybrid linebacker, right? So that would kind of open up a need for you at true free safety if you're willing to fill it in. A couple of guys I think of when it comes to filling that position in are Javon Holland in free agency, maybe getting a guy like Xavier Watts in the draft, right? So I don't think they're going to do anything at safety. They'll probably just bring Jeremy Chin back, run it back one more year with Quan Martin as your free safety, Jeremy Chin as your strong safety. And if you feel like that needs to be addressed in the following offseason, then you do that, right? So I don't think free safety will be addressed this offseason. However, I could definitely see it being addressed next offseason if, we feel like that position needs to be addressed. And then tight end is one that I could see addressed. Now, we just drafted Ben Sinnott last offseason, but we still could draft a tight end. This tight end draft is pretty good. There's a couple of really nice players or prospects in this tight end class. So I could see us drafting tight end. But honestly, I feel like we'll just run it back with the same tight ends we have. Zach Ertz was very reliable for us this past season. So I feel like we'll bring him back on like a one-year deal, keep developing Ben Sinnott. I hope to see him get more opportunities next year. I feel like he will. So I feel like we're just going to run it back with the same tight end group we had this year. But I could potentially see us targeting a tight end in the draft. So, we'll see what they do. But tight end is definitely a potential need. D tackle is a need in my opinion. I personally would move on from one of Daron Payne or Jonathan Allen this offseason. Trading one of those guys, getting as much as you can for one of those guys, feel like that would be a pretty solid decision to make. And there's a couple of defensive tackles in the draft and in free agency that we could be looking after to get, like Osai Digizua from the Cowboys. He was a pretty solid defensive tackle for the Cowboys in the 2024 season. He has obviously ties to DQ, so that's a guy that I could definitely see us signing this offseason. So defensive tackle, man, we just need a really good pass rusher and a really good run stopper at the D tackle position. And I feel like moving on from one of Daron Payne or John Allen, that could help us get a defensive tackle this offseason. But even if we don't, I feel like we still got to bring in a defensive tackle or two because the play out of the defensive tackles this year just wasn't good enough. And then finally, I have guard Sam Cosmi. He's probably not going to be back until like October or November of the 2025 NFL season because of how late he suffered that torn ACL, suffering it in January, right? So that's really late. So it may take him a while to come back, and he might not be ready for the start of the 2025 season, right? So we might need to find a replacement for him in the meantime while he's recovering. That guy could be on the roster, right? Maybe we decide to move Brandon Coleman inside. Maybe he moves to left guard and then have Allegretti fill in at right guard for Sam Cosmi in the meantime. Or maybe we go out there, free agency, sign a plug-and-play guy to fill in at right guard for Sam Cosmi, and that guy will start until Sam Cosmi is good to come back. And left guard, I could see us moving Brandon Coleman to left guard, or I could see us signing a left guard if we feel like we could upgrade from Nick Allegretti, right? Will we upgrade guard? We'll see. I feel like we could upgrade from Nick Allegretti, but he wasn't that bad this year. However, I feel like we could do better than him, and I do want to see Brandon Coleman be given a shot at left guard this offseason, right? But we'll see what they decide to do at the guard position, but definitely look out at what they do at right guard because Sam Cosmi, he's going to be out for a minute, and they'll need to decide what to do to fill in for him at the right guard position. So that is it for today's video. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like down below, subscribe, turn on notifications, comment down below your top 5 needs or top 3 or top needs in general for the Commanders entering the 2025 offseason. And other than that, it's been King Sean, and I'm out. Peace.